for joining us on TVC News Hour. I am Azeezat Olaoluwa. Apologies for starting a little late. Let's now take a look at the top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari presents 2019 budget proposal of 8.83 trillion naira to the National Assembly amid cheering and heckling. He admonished the jeerers, saying the world is watching. A ruptured pipeline explodes, setting off a huge fire in Abule Egba in Lagos. Vandals leave victims counting the cost of their illegal activities. Outside Nigeria, U.S. President Donald Trump withdraws troops from Syria, declares victory over the Islamic State group. Now, the shocking order leaves the fight against ISIS in the Middle East in Russia and Iran's hands. In sports, Nigeria's Golden Eaglets know 2019 Under-17 African opponents on Thursday. Details coming up. President Muhammadu Buhari has presented an 8.83 trillion naira 2019 appropriation bill before a joint session of the National Assembly. But he says the new national minimum wage is fashioned into the budget estimates. National Assembly correspondent Joke Adisa reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari arrives at the joint sitting of the parliament. In his presentation, the president read out his administration's achievements in the outgoing year, pegging the 2018 budget performance at 67%.
Of the total appropriation of 9.12 trillion naira, 4.59 trillion naira had been spent by 30th September 2018 against the prorated expenditure target of 6.84 trillion naira. This represents 67% performance.
He highlights the projections for the next fiscal year, which include an oil price benchmark of $60 per barrel, oil production rate at 2.3 million barrels per day, and an exchange rate of 305 naira to a US dollar. The budget estimates show that 4.04 trillion naira has been set aside for recurrent expenditure.
A total expenditure of 8.83 trillion naira is estimated for 2019 budget. This includes grants and donor funds of 209.92 billion naira. This provision is less than 2018 federal government appropriated expenditure estimate of 9.12 trillion naira.
More importantly, the president says the new minimum wage projection has been included in the next fiscal document.
I am committed to addressing the issue of a minimum wage, and I will be sending a bill to you, the National Assembly, on this. However, in order to avoid a fiscal crisis for the federal government, as well as the states, it is important to devise ways to ensure that its implementation does not lead to an increase in the level of borrowing.
He has also directed the sale of all recovered assets to fund the 2019 budget.
As we have returned to the path of growth, I have directed that action on all our revenue initiatives be expedited. I have already issued a number of presidential directives on the disposal of recovered assets.
A breakdown of the budget estimates for next year shows that the Ministry of Interior gets 569.07 billion naira, while Defense has 435.62 billion naira. Education gets 426.24 billion naira, and Health has 315.62 billion naira. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
And the president's budget presentation was occasionally interrupted by federal lawmakers of the People's Democratic Party. But as they jeered with placards, legislators of the All Progressives Congress cheered on the president.
President Muhammadu Buhari was slated to address the legislators by 11 a.m., but this was not to be, as the lawmakers went into a closed-door session at that time. The aim of the meeting was to placate PDP members after news leaked that they had perfected their plans to register their displeasure with the administration. The secret meeting, which held for more than 30 minutes, apparently had no effect, as PDP members welcomed the president with this protest song. This degenerated into a fight among the lawmakers. In what was a departure from the tradition of the National Assembly, Senate President Bukola Saraki failed to give an opening remark. The president's presentation was marred by cheers and jeers, so much so that Mr. President had this to say.
May I appeal to the honorable members that the world is watching us, and we are supposed to be above this.
Some of the lawmakers expressed their views about the ugly incident.
Democracy in action, but it's very unfortunate the way democracy played out today. I'm saying this as a parliamentarian to the core.
In every democracy and in every society, there is unpatriotic citizens. Those PDP members that are shouting, they are unpatriotic citizens. 2018 has not been implemented. Why are we even talking of 2019 budget?
It was just opposition politics at play, and it happens everywhere in the world. I mean, we all witness when the President of the United States, anytime he gives his State of the Nation address, you see what opposition does. They refuse to clap. Sometimes they boo.
Well, they really shouldn't talk because they shouldn't be sitting on those seats because they now belong to minority parties. When I was in the minority party, I was a minority leader. I wasn't the Senate President. So I would expect that what has happened today should be a wake-up call for the Speaker and the Senate President to resign peacefully.
This is a year of election, and people have just finished nominations, and most of them has lost nomination in their parties. Most of them are not sure of winning the elections, and there is another presidential candidate of the PDP. So everything in war they think is fair. They have taken it to the chamber of the National Assembly, which has never been. But it's okay. As democracy progresses, you'll be seeing new aspects of campaign.
The aggrieved lawmakers will not allow Speaker Yakubu Dogara give his usual vote of thanks.
Well, the House of Representatives has reacted to the drama that played out between the APC lawmakers and their PDP counterparts. Its spokesman, Abdulrazak Namdas, described the development as the essence of democracy, but admits it was not in the nation's interest.
What happened on the floor of the House is democracy in action. There's nothing abnormal about it because you can see that the ruling party are hailing the president. The opposition is also not doing the same, and everybody have right to freedom of speech and what to say, and we cannot bar people from doing anything. But at the end of the day, the budget has been presented by the president, and the message has been passed and it has been laid, which is very important.
You're watching TVC News Hour. We'll go on a short break now and return in just a moment. Stay with us. Glad to have you back. We are still on the story of President Muhammadu Buhari presenting 8.83 trillion naira as the budget proposal for 2019. And we have joining us to discuss the budget presentation, the Professor of Capital Markets and HOD Banking and Finance, Nasarawa State University, Professor Uche Waleke. Good evening and thank you for joining us on TV's News Hour.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, first off, the budget figure for 2019 is lower than that of 2018, which is 9.12 trillion naira, though not still higher than the original figure presented by the executive in 2018. But would you say it's reflective of what is expected of a country as big as Nigeria?
I think the point is whether it's reflective of current realities. You know, as far as budget is concerned, the principle of conservatism is what should guide the budget preparation. In fact, there is this popular saying in finance literature that it is better to be conservative and be surprised on the upside, you know, than to be overly ambitious and then get disappointed. If we are having a lower budget figure, it's not, if you look at it critically, it's not because we are using a lower oil benchmark. For 2018, the oil price benchmark, if you recall, was $51 per barrel. The same output projection is also what we're using for 2019. That's 2.3 million barrels per day. But I think the shortfall is coming, you know, from the non-oil revenue side, where government is deliberately reducing, particularly the projections for internally generated revenue. It has become obvious that what they did in 2018 was largely ambitious, and as a result of that, what they're projecting this year is, a little less. So it's the current reality that is informing that. But let me also say this too, that if you look at the assumptions, okay, you could say with some reasonable degree of certainty that the exchange rate assumption is realistic at 305 naira to the dollar, because on the average we've witnessed a stable exchange rate over some time now. And even the 2.3 million barrels per day too, you could say is also realistic. Inflation rate of 9.98%, given the fact that inflation rate has been trending down, 11.28 as last month, is also attainable in my view. But what I also see as ambitious is the $60 per barrel oil price benchmark. From all indications, is overly ambitious. At the time these proposals were being drafted, of course, you know, is a product of the medium-term expenditure framework of 2019 to 2021. At the time it was being drafted, oil price averaged $74 per barrel, and it made sense to use $60 per barrel. But as we speak, you can't put your finger and say, you know, for sure that you're gonna get that. That's why I strongly feel that $60 per barrel is, you know, a little on the high side. If you look at what is happening now, in spite of the agreements that OPEC had with non-OPEC, you know, with Russia and other non-OPEC countries earlier this month, oil price is still coming down. They've agreed to cut oil output by 1.2 million barrels per day. The oil producing OPEC members, you know, taking a haircut of 800,000 barrels. Non-oil, non-OPEC, you know, 400,000. But in spite of all of that, oil price today is around $57, $58 per barrel. And there is also this threat of, you know, the U.S. shale production. As we speak, the U.S. has announced that is now a net exporter of oil. So the supply side is there, and on the demand side too, there is this fear to the risk of global slowdown in economic growth. The IMF has cut global growth, you know, from 3.9 to 3.7, and all this will impact, you know, oil price in 2019. So it is really surprising that we are still going ahead with $60, you know, per barrel. It is not for nothing that Russia, a major oil producing country in the world, is using $40 per barrel for or used $40 per barrel for each 2018-2019 expenditure plans. And we are using $60 per barrel.
Okay, let me take you back to the inflation rate assumption of 9.8% the federal government wants to use for 2019, which you said, of course, is realizable. But did you put into consideration the fact that we are in a festive period and the projection for December is about 11.8% increment of inflation rate? And then 2019 is an election year for Nigeria, where many analysts are saying that inflation could even go higher.
Of course, when we say 9.98%, we mean average inflation rate for 2019. And given where our reserves, the level of our reserves today, at over $40 billion, about a little shy of $43 billion, and the fact that the central bank with that kind of reserves, is in a position to continue to intervene in the market and maintain a stable exchange rate, which fits into the inflationary rates, given our import dependency. I think the central bank, is in a position to subdue inflation to single-digit level, next year, which will also pave way for eventual relaxation of monetary policy, particularly reducing the monetary policy rate from the current 14%. And of course, if monetary policy is relaxed and we begin to see credit being funneled to the risk sector, output will increase, and then you should also expect that inflation will go down. And this is also coupled with the fact that the budget is also giving attention to capital projects. About 30% of the budget is devoted to capital projects. Although when you sieve out the components meant for statutory transfer and some other components, you have a figure about 2.01 trillion that is represents about 23% of the budget. But what is important is that in the speech, at least going by the speech, there's a commitment to continue to finish up ongoing projects, critical projects, particularly in roads and rail, that will spur growth, in the economy. So I am also happy that although recurrence is high, the president has said that it has accommodated the new minimum wage that is currently being
Professor,
negotiated.
We'll have to end it there because of time. Professor Uche Uwaleke, the Professor of Capital Markets and HOD Banking and Finance, thank you for your analysis on TVC News Hour. It told us that.
Thank you for.
Yes. It told us that the budget assumption for 2019 are okay for the year, apart from the $60 per barrel the government has pegged the budget on. Well, moving on now, reactions have been trailing the news on the killing of the former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade. President Muhammadu Buhari describes it as very sad and unfortunate. He said the late Bade attained professional fulfillment in his over 3 decades military career and regretted that he fell victim to fatal attacks on the nation's highways. President Buhari also directed security agencies to find the killers of the 15th Chief of Defense Staff, prosecute the culprits, and ensure the safety of road users on major highways. Before the Senate President Bukola Saraki, the killing of the former Chief of Defense Staff came as a shock. Taking to his Twitter page, Senator Saraki said Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade's death is a great loss to the nation. He prayed that the family and the military be granted the fortitude to bear the loss. Also reacting, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, described the murder as saddening and alarming. He also extended his thoughts and prayers to the family, hoping that the perpetrators will be apprehended soon. On his part, Adamawa State Governor Jibrila Bindao says the late Air Chief Marshal Bade will be greatly missed by the people of the state, who took pride in him as an illustrious kinsman. Governor Bindao said the former defense chief made huge contributions to the state and the people would not forget his influence in citing the Nigeria Air Force Comprehensive Secondary School in Yola. Our correspondent Sifon Essien was at the headquarters of the Nigerian Air Force, where the Chief of Air Staff, Sadiq Abubakar, pledged to go after the killers of former Chief of Defense Staff Alex Bade. He urged the officers to remain dedicated to their calling despite the loss.
A somber atmosphere at the headquarters of the Nigerian Air Force. The service is mourning the death of the former Chief of Defense Staff Alex Bade, who was killed by assailants on Monday along the Abuja-Kefi Road. It's a sad day for the Nigerian Air Force and indeed the Nigerian Armed Forces. The Air Chief makes a pledge during the course of this meeting with senior officers.
For this kind of thing to happen is something that is totally unacceptable by all standards. The Nigerian Air Force is working very closely since yesterday night with other security agencies to find the killers, the committers of this heinous crime, and by the special grace of God, we'll get to them and they will face justice.
He encourages the officers to remain dedicated to their calling in spite of the loss.
For us, air officers commanding and commanders, don't get discouraged. Be very bold and courageous and remain focused on the task, which is to make sure that Nigeria is secure. Do your best with what is available, and I assure you that we'll continue to support you with what we have.
The killing of the former defense chief grimly reflects the security challenges the country is grappling with. Sifon Essien, TVC News, Abuja.
Away from that, property worth millions of naira went up in flames when an oil pipeline burst in Abulegba, Lagos. Residents now want the government to enforce laws regulating safety standards for the sake of people who live near pipelines. Sarah Ayeku spent the time at the scene of the incident earlier today.
19th of December will be remembered as a bleak day for residents and shop owners in Abulegba, a suburb of Lagos. It is a sad reminder of a similar incident 12 years ago in the same area. Emergency responders who arrived at the scene said the fire occurred as a result of the activities of suspected bunkerers around the NNPC pipeline. The inferno destroyed property worth millions of naira.
I'm short of word because I cannot do it alone. It's only if government can intervene for the whole situation. I'm pleading to them that they should intervene for the situation. Because as I'm standing now, I have not less than 1,500 to sustain my family. Everything that happened concerning pipeline or whatever, the whole community, children, adults, women, young and old, is aware of what happened.
Assessing the incident, the lawmaker representing the constituency wants relevant security personnel to guard all installations in the area.
What we really need around here is thorough surveillance. Thorough surveillance, both the police, the civil defense, the army, joint task force must come to this area. Between the rail line at Fagba down to here at the express, it needs to be monitoring constantly.
It is barbaric, it is uncalled for, and those people that perpetrated this act should be named and arrested.
Williams is a business owner. He's a car dealer, but now he has only ashes in his shop.
Before the fire service got here, they were lamenting they don't have water in their tank to quench the fire, which is very painful. They got to go back and come back here like 2 hours or thereabouts. Before they got here, all these cars are burnt. And this is almost 200 million, over 100 something million worth of cars. This is painful. We need help. That's what we need. Help. Help. Where are we going to go about it? Everybody knows the situation of this country, our hardship, the kind of hardship we are facing here. I'm in pain. I'm in pain. So also my other colleagues out there.
According to officials, the inferno went through 9 streets, destroying 38 vehicles, 4 tricycles, 71 shops, 30 rooms, 2 blocks of flat, and a church auditorium. Investigations have begun to establish the cause of the fire and also identify the owner of a container erected on the pipeline. Sarah Ayeku, TVC News, Lagos.
A very sad incident that has affected many people, though no life was lost. Still to come on TVC News Hour. Police bust a house where assorted fake wines are produced near Abule Egba in Lagos. We have details of that story and more after this break. Stay with us. You're watching TVC News Hour. Now, Abule Egba is still in the news as the police stormed a house where assorted fake wines are produced near that area. Ivy Kanu was part of the team that accompanied the police to the alleged factory.
From the ground floor to the first floor, it is a well-thought-out building with various partitions. While the first floor appears to be where the machines are mounted, the brewer's living room appears to serve as a storage facility.
This place doubles as parlor and storage, as you can see. There are a lot of finished products here in cartons. I think your reportage should be more on the products. Yes, because I want members of the public to see these products, so that anywhere there's any outlet they see it, they should be wary of buying them for health reasons. I've ordered that every single one of these products be taken to the NAFDAC laboratory for examination and analysis, so that we determine the degree of how poisonous they are.
Taking us on a tour of the building, the CP warned wine lovers to tread carefully in consuming any wine, especially during the festive season.
During a search carried out in these premises houses, of course, the man operating the illegal brewery, where he stays here with his family and uses part of it to produce adulterated and fake wine products. During a search executed by the area commander and his men, the following items were recovered here: 4,000 bottles of already produced, packed and labeled adulterated wine of different brands, 1,000 empty bottles, drums of different sizes, various chemicals and reagents used as raw materials, and of course other tools used in the production of the fake wine and beverages.
Police say the suspect, Uju Daniels, will have his day in court. Ivy Kanu, TVC News, Lagos.
Outside Nigeria, the United States has started withdrawing its troops from Syria after President Donald Trump declared that the Islamic State has been defeated in that country. Where roughly 2,000 U.S. troops, primarily special forces, are advising Kurdish and Arab fighters called the Syrian Democratic Forces. The U.S. withdrawal could be seen as abandoning local allies who proved effective ground forces in the battle against ISIS in Syria. And of course, with that, we wrap it up on TVC News Hour. But remember, updates are available on our website. It's tvcnews.tv. You can also get all the top stories and even more on all our social media platforms using the handle at TVC News NG. Thank you for watching. I am Azeezat Olaoluwa. Bye for now.